Hello, and once again, we are live to the Mini Me Yoga podcast and YouTube channel. Now, we're doing something a little bit different, and I've invited on the Mini Me Yoga leadership team, and you can see here from all their credentials in their name tags that we've got a team of experts here because something, every time we come around and we meet together, we are finding the same things, and we just wanted to share with you out there what our findings have been, how we can help and support teachers and parents from the areas of expertise that we all have. And I entitled this particular podcast, Why is Our Children's Wellbeing Overlooked due to lack of knowledge about kids yoga? And this is a very serious subject. Many people have this misconception about kids yoga, and it's being overlooked or being thought of something quite wishy-washy, and this is not the case. So I'd like to start off by just reading a paragraph from some recent research that was done. And it says, the analysis showed that in the participants' perspective, children's yoga can complement academic endeavours. For those who are not academic, children's yoga can nevertheless serve to illustrate how each child is bright in their own unique way. Unfortunately, it also demonstrated that people's opinions of children's yoga are based on lack of knowledge or a distorted perspective. So I'm going to throw the ball into the court right away and welcome Jo Owens, who wrote this research paper. Tell us, Jo, why were you driven to investigate this? What were your findings? Give us the lowdown.
Okay, hello. Hi. Okay, so the reason why I wanted to do yoga, because I myself have a lot of belief in the actual activity. It's amazing. It gives children the opportunity to actually explore themselves, their bodies, who they could be, who they want to be, and everything that yoga is just amazing. It's just so for children. And what my research was specific was looking at it from a practitioner's point of view. Now there are some research out there that children have been asked why and they themselves tell you that it's amazing, it's fun, it's great, it's helped and in all sorts of ways in health and well-being. But it's the practitioners, I think, that haven't had a voice up until now, until I found that only three research, and based in Canada and USA, were based on the practitioner's point of view. So I thought it was interesting if we could actually find out what the practitioners feel and think about it. And from that experience and from that research, it was found that basically people out there are not actually are judging children's yoga on adult yoga, and it's not adult yoga. And my fellow colleagues, they could tell you that basically that it's more about exploring. It's about becoming friends. It's about holding hands. It's about just learning to be yogaists for themselves, and and it's not about competing for against each other. It's about learning to find out if themselves that their way is the right way.
And this is interesting, Jo, because you are, a counsellor across a very big area. You work with a lot of children that are, need assistance and help. And so this is coming from you as seeing children that from all walks of life, all different areas, all different demographic. So I just wanted to point that out. Now, Claire Louise, you are a Montessori teacher, counselor, train yoga. What are your findings? What are your findings?
Yeah, I mean, hi, by the way. I think Jo hit the nail on the head. What we see a lot of is people expecting children's yoga to be exactly what adult yoga is. And I've said this a million times, and I'm sure I'll say it a million more. We don't need to teach children how to do yoga. We don't need to do that. They are yoga. In all of their being, they're yoga. So in fact, as adults, what really we're trying to do is get back to the state that we were in as kids, through our yoga practice. But when you're working with children, you don't need to do that. They have everything that they need. They're practicing yoga on a daily basis. They breathe very well. Their breathing is brilliant by, just naturally. They don't have to learn the techniques like we do as adults. We have to get back to learning how to breathe properly like we did as children. Well, children are doing that already. They live in the moment. They don't tend to hang on to things, not until they get a bit older. So in fact, what we're doing as yoga practitioners for children is we're just nurturing what they already are and trying to develop the tools to help them to deal with life. And I think that, especially as a Montessori teacher, I see so many similarities between teaching Montessori and teaching children's yoga, because really the essence of Montessori is, help me to help myself. That's really what it is. Help me to help myself. So we are teaching the children skills of independence, so that they can go out into the world and do things on their own. And that's really what we're doing with children's yoga. We're saying, listen, this is life. Here are some amazing tools that you can go out into the world with and that you can use right from now as children right up until you're adults. And of course, those tools are going to come in handy later on in life. As we know now, as adults, we all run back to our mat to practice because we're looking for those tools. Well, let's set them up now with those tools so that they can use what they've already got and just learn more about it, take it with them into the world and apply it to life, which for me, I will always think that yoga should be on the curriculum in schools. I think it's just as important as every academic subject out there. In fact, dare I say more important, because for me personally, I don't use algebra in my daily life, but I definitely use, things that I have gained through my knowledge of yoga. And I think helping with self-esteem, helping with confidence, helping with learning to overcome challenges, managing challenge. These are things that we're all going to face in life. Why aren't we teaching those things in school?
Yeah, and I like that you brought up, because automatically this lack of understanding or lack of knowledge will automatically think that yoga is the asanas, is the poses, is just the movement. But actually we know that yoga is breathing. It's about being kind to yourself, being kind to others, having a positive mindset. It's about being in the now. It's about being present. It's all these different types of things come under the umbrella of yoga. That's what yoga really is. It's a way of keeping yourself balanced and calm and in that place. And I'm glad you just brought that up, because Vicky, tell me, you primary school teacher, counselor, again, what are you finding when you're coming up against, you work a lot with schools, and I know that you have some schools that jump on immediately and want these tools in the schools, and then there's others that have this lack of understanding. So can you share your experiences there, please?
Yeah, I think the first thing to address is that there are so many emotional needs and mental health things that are coming up in children, more so than there ever was. I've used these tools for myself in my classroom, for the children that I've worked with, and myself as a teacher trying to cope with stress levels, with anxiety, hyperactive behaviors in the classroom, low level disruptions, whatever it is. There is a tool within our mini yoga program, for example, that can help and support that. But when I'm talking to schools and when I'm having conversations with teachers all the time, I feel like there is this assumption that we do sports and we do traditional sports. So football, rugby, tennis, basketball, whatever it is. And then when I mention yoga, everyone kind of shies away. So there's a whole new discussion for another day, which is yoga a sport? How do we classify it? But actually, when we're doing yoga with the children, we are combining those physical aspects of well-being and those emotional aspects of well-being that go hand in hand to support one another. And I think there's some resistance because, as you mentioned at the beginning, some people might think that it's a little bit out of the box, it's a little bit woo-woo, it's a little bit different. But actually, as teachers, as educators, as parents, we as human beings, we should just be using any strategies that work for us as individuals. And it shouldn't have to be in its own class, or it shouldn't have to have certain research behind it. If it works for you or if it works for them, why are we not using it? You know? And I think having discussions on a daily basis with teachers, we know that budget's a problem for alternative things. So as Claire Louise said, it would be incredible on the curriculum, and we've got to get it there. We've got to get it there, just like football and everything else. But it is that, okay, well, how do we integrate it? How do we use it? How do we use it as a learning tool, but also use it to be able to be standalone? And it's so flexible. So we don't have to be physically flexible, but it has flexibility within it. I think there's also that assumption that people are scared of, I don't know how to do it. One of the conversations I have quite a lot is, do I have to learn to put my leg around my neck and my head and like get myself into weird positions? And I'm like, no, that's not what kids yoga is about. So that is the assumption, that is that lack of knowledge and understanding about what actually yoga is. So it's about being mindful, it's about being present, it's about thinking about everybody else, that self-progression and self-development and self-awareness. And when we use that and we understand ourselves and our behaviors, and we've got those positive strategies in place, we can develop the classroom, we can lower those anxiety and stress levels that we were talking about earlier to help ourselves. So lots of different ways and lots of different opinions, but yeah.
Yeah, I like that, because I think it's important that you touched on something here that I know for sure 100% that yoga is for everybody, because everybody can breathe. Everybody can breathe, so you can do yoga. And that's what that's one of the main things that I always found, is that you always can find a common ground. It doesn't matter what level of physical ability a child has or an adult has, or what level of mental ability child or an adult has. You can always find that common ground. It could be the breath, it could be raising our hands, whatever it is, or just saying something nice to one another. There's always something that we can come together, and I can't find any other system or technique that that we can all find a common ground in schools that's so simple. And I know, Karina, you have blended the forest school and yoga together. So could you tell us how doing yoga outside, and what have your experiences been?
Well, since I've finished my forest school training, we've done various different things outside with yoga. We take parts of the Mini Me yoga program and we split them down and we use them throughout our sessions. Our sessions are normally 2 hours long. We don't do them like step 1, step 2 all the way through. We split them up throughout our session. So we come together at the circle at the beginning, as we do with our Mini Me yoga, and we use sometimes we use a breathing exercise, and sometimes we just look around a circle at each other, which is part of the Mini Me program as well. And it just helps us all to be on that level playing field. It helps us all to be together and to know that every single person within that circle is equal. Everybody around that circle has got something important to say, and they can be heard, and nobody's judging anybody. And it's exactly the same in our yoga circles, isn't it, when we do our Mini Me yoga? I find that taking it outside, it just gives it that second, that extra dimension. They just have so much more freedom, more space. We've done different things where you take your shoes off and you're in the grass, or you're squelching in the mud and you're doing your poses, and it's just so much fun. It just adds that extra,
Yeah, definitely. I love this because we're showing now the flexibility of it being inside and outside. So ladies on the call, what do we want to see from teachers? What do we want to see from parents to help us help the kids? Because essentially that's what we want. That's our driving point. But we have to have, how can we get this out there that yoga is something that everybody can benefit from? I'd like to hear from the panel.
So I think we really have to encourage parents to let go of this idea that they have of yoga, whether it's a negative or whether it's a positive. I think you just have to start from scratch. If your child is interested in yoga, if there's an opportunity for them to take part in yoga, go into it with an open mind and with a blank canvas. It's going to be different to what you expect if you've done a yoga class yourself. What's a great idea for parents is maybe to join a family yoga class with their children so they can get a better idea of what it looks like, what's going to be going on, what to expect, and just to get a glimpse into that world of children's yoga. I mean, family yoga is great fun as well. So it's a cool thing to do together. And then to have conversations about it. So this is something I find a lot, I have to say as well, in the British culture, sometimes when we're a bit unsure of something, we're almost frightened to know too much about it. So it's better not to discuss it at all than to ask questions. And so I think, ask questions, come and talk to us, come in and have the conversations. We're happy to show you the materials. We want to talk to you about what we're doing. We want you to be involved. Don't shut something out if you're frightened of it. In fact, invite it in and let us show you what it's about, because I have never had a person that's come into a family yoga class, for example, and has left saying that was awful, that wasn't for me. I've had lots of people coming in saying, I have no idea what I'm doing here, I don't know what to expect. And I say, that's brilliant. But when they're leaving, they're never saying that was just, they often say that's not what I expected and I loved it. But you won't really see people leaving unhappy, because it's a dopamine release. I mean, you feel brilliant, so I think give it a go, be open, and for us guys, to invite that conversation and allow that to happen, and allow the questions to be asked no matter what the questions are, because there's nothing to be afraid of here. Nothing.
Also, Jo, children that are struggling out there, parents that are worried sick about their kids, anxiety, grief, trauma, how can we help them?
How can we help them? Basically, being with them, be present, listening to them. It's instead of going it from from the adult perspective, go from the child. The child has always got the answers, and if they haven't got the answers, then you explore it together. And I think yoga has that potential to explore things together, even if it's with a practitioner or it's on their own. With counselling and psychotherapy, on their point of view, the need really for the child is to understand what is going on for them, is to understand where they're coming from. And adults sometimes, I'll make an example. At the moment, there's going to be a lot of grief in my family, in my own personal family, and my daughter's only 4. And I'm going to have to most definitely start talking about death and where they go, what happens, what. Now, most parents, I'm not saying all, but most parents would be shy about that and say, oh no, don't talk about that. It's too scary. But I think by her giving her knowledge, even at 4 years old, she's not going to be wondering where her granddad's gone or any other person. She's going to know. She's going to already be aware that actually there's a place to bury and things like that. So it's not being afraid. I think Claire Louise hit the nail on the head. Stop being afraid. If you can. I mean, I know that there's a lot out there, fear, a lot out there, but children are more courageous if the adult is more courageous.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. And Vicky, what are you wanting to see, in schools, regarding yoga? How can we, how can they get some yoga in their schools? How can they start this process,
It can be really simple, just in the classroom when they're sat at their desks. You said earlier, yoga, if you can breathe, you can do yoga. Can we sit and do a breathing exercise before we start a maths lesson, or before we start a piece of writing, or when we come in after lunch and it's absolutely chaotic? I think the other thing is, as we've said, having that open mind. We understand as people that we are going to have our preferences, and for every individual that is going to be different. There are going to be things that we like and we dislike. From an education teacher perspective, especially as a primary teacher, we teach every single subject, and I'm just going to confess, I don't love them all. Okay. You may not know that when I teach them, but I do not love them all. And so I think when we are introducing yoga to children, whether that's a taster session with one of us going in and teaching it, or whether we introduce it in our classrooms by using a resource that we found, or, no matter what, if we come from a place where this will help us in some way, for me as a teacher, if one child or one member of staff gets a technique that supports them and helps them, then I feel like I've done something really useful. Yesterday, for example, I did 12 back-to-back taster sessions of yoga in a primary school, and it was absolutely incredible. I knew that everybody walking in was not going to be invested in it in the same level that I was, and that's fine. But every single person engaged, every single person had a go. It was inclusive, all abilities, all age groups. Every member of staff that came in that room also engaged, and it's about bringing everybody together, and everybody left having a smile on their face. So if nothing else, we are creating, through using some of these strategies or showing one another that awareness and opening that door, that we can do things, we can have a go, even if we don't like it, and that's absolutely fine. But let's try it. Let's see what happens.
And then Karina, tell us from the parent perspective, and also, Forest School facilitator, how you're in a position where you can offer, yoga outside, you can do, in nature and what have you. But what would you like to see parents doing or engaging? How can we help them? How can we reach them?
I think it's like Claire said, and Joanna as well, just don't be frightened. Just come along. If you see one of our posters or one of our adverts somewhere, just come and ask, come and talk to us, come and say, look, we want to try this. We want to do something different with our family, and just come and have a go. From the parent perspective, my youngest discovered Mini-Me Yoga before I did. And it was down to her, really, that I've come along and found out more. And here I am 5 years later, working alongside you all and just exploring what happens and exploring the change, and her just wanting to do yoga all the time. She'd done it at nursery and she missed it when she got to primary. And it was just something that was missing from her day, and she wanted it back, and she was going to get it regardless. Mummy, have you phoned? Mummy, have you emailed? I need this yoga. I want my yoga back. So this is how I discovered Mini-Me Yoga. And, if it hadn't have been for Eve, I wouldn't have found out how wonderful and magical children's yoga is. And then teaming it up with the outside is it's just made it even better. How you can make it even better, I don't know, but it's just amazing. And having the resources, just the tools, you don't need bags and bags of this and posters of that, and you need this, that, and the other. You don't even need a yoga mat. You can just go and enjoy it and do it inside or out, and just have fun and enjoy yourself.
Well, I think that's a pretty special place to leave it on. We've finished our first podcast that we're going to be coming, and this is going to be a new series that we're doing. So we're going to talk about the difficult questions that come up and the situations that we come up against. And if you're a kids yoga teacher out there, why not get in touch with us and come and join us and talk about these things, so that even we're all on the same path, wanting to get these tools and techniques to parents and teachers and children, and we're passionate about it. So if you're a parent, if you're a teacher, if you're a fellow kids yoga teacher, whatever it is, let's come together and start asking the questions so that we can discuss them, and in discussing them, hopefully we can get this message out there that kids yoga is not adult yoga. It's not doing a few poses on a mat. It's a complete well-being, a complete well-being strategy, from breathing to kindness to the nutrition, the whole thing. And each part of it is there for your picking, to sample what you like. So please, go out there and find whoever's local to you, because it's just truly tremendous. I'd like to thank the panel members. Thank you all for joining us this evening. And we will be back in just a few weeks with our next hot topic. And if you've got a hot topic, why not email us and we'll discuss it. info@minimiyoga.com. Good night for tonight. Good night, everyone.